Good morning and welcome to this new chapter, new episode of the interviews of Muzem. We are today with Leslie Amaya and Diego Castañeda, and we want to say thank you for being listening and seeing all of our latest interviews. And as you know, this will be an space full of knowledge and curious things about the big and magical world of the emeralds and the jewelry. Today we have a very, very special guest. He is Ronald Ringsrud. Hello, Ronald. How are you?
Hello, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Um, well, first of all, to introduce Ronald, maybe we want to do a little exercise. Tell us, Ronald, in third person, who is Ronald Ringsrud? To everybody can knows about you.
Well, I've never done that before, but I'll give it a try. Ron Ringsrud began his self-employment in the emerald business in 1983 after working for 3 years at the GIA, the Gemological Institute of America. And the 1980s were a good time to start a business. It was the Reagan years, and emeralds were very popular along with rubies and diamonds. And I had no particular plan when I started, but I just did what was in front of me. And I made between 4 and 6 trips per year to Colombia to buy emeralds and export the emeralds to the United States. And my career has consisted in just being an emerald dealer, an emerald exporter, a gemologist, and my clients have been mainly in this hemisphere, Canada, Mexico, and North America, the United States, and I did the trade shows like Tucson and New York and Las Vegas. But a lot of people in my business, they branch out into tanzanite, rubies, sapphires, other stones, but my entire 30-year career in emeralds has been only emeralds. It's kind of unusual, but I even tried to branch into Brazilian emeralds, but after a trip to Brazil, I brought a parcel of Brazilian emeralds back to Colombia and had them faceted in Bogota. And I barely broke even with the money, so I just never went back to Brazil. And I've been now over 30 years dealing with exclusively with Colombian emeralds.
All right, it's really, really interesting about that you try to do some other things with Brazilian emeralds or maybe with another colored stones. I think Leslie is gonna continue.
Yes.
Hi, Ronald. First of all, we would like to thank you for accept our invitation. So you told us already, of your experience in the emerald world, but we would like to know which was your first approach to the emeralds, and what do you think that make them so special and unique?
I think in my first visit to Colombia as an emerald person, I remember specifically the people. The Colombian people were so warm, so welcoming, and so easy to work with. And I even went to Chiquinquirá in 1984 to buy emeralds there, because every Tuesday there was a market there back in those years. And I was very young and I was very ignorant on a lot of things. And the men in Chiquinquirá, they could have engañado, they could have fooled me into an impossible price or terrible merchandise, but no, they sold me some decent emeralds at a decent price that I could go back and make a small profit with. And so my first years with emeralds were I was kind of vulnerable, although I was a gemologist, but it's not an easy business to get into. But The language was no barrier, and I discovered that the people I was dealing with in Bogota and even in Chiquinquirá, that the Colombian people are generally very good listeners. They're well educated. The textile industry in Colombia has them all dressed nicely. And of course, now in the new millennium, I noticed that in Bogota, even here, not everybody wears a tie every day. But I want to tell you, in the 1980s and the 1990s, when you go to work to buy emeralds, we all wore a tie and a sport jacket. Yes, I quickly discovered that my favorite place to go was Colombia, so I continued visiting.
That's really interesting because not too many people used to remark or to show up people that trade with emeralds. They show up like quality of the emeralds, but not the people. So that's a really interesting point, I think. And now we understand how the emerald business works in Colombia. However, we would like to know how it works abroad in some other countries. I think you have a lot of experience in other places, and I would like to know how is the emerald trade in other places.
Yes, well, I would take my emeralds, and usually I would fly through Miami to return to the United States. And in Miami, I would declare the emeralds as commercial merchandise, and I would pay a tax, maybe $200-300. And then the emeralds are legally entered into the United States. From there, at the trade shows, we would sell to other wholesalers. But back in the previous millennium and this millennium, China was always a strong buyer of emeralds. And the Chinese people would come to Hong Kong or Taiwan, and there was always a number of Colombians that would go to those places and sell to the big jewelry store owners or the wholesalers. And the thing about the emerald business, even in China, the United States, or Europe, it's a very old-fashioned business. Even in these modern days, it's still very old-fashioned because there's no price list for emeralds. You know, in diamonds, you have a price list with the quality of the diamond, the color of the diamond, and you can look up the price very easily with maybe even a beginner with 2-3 hours on the internet. He can buy a diamond safely. But with emeralds, rubies, sapphires, and colored stones, there's no price list. So it makes the business very much dependent on face-to-face negotiation and coming to an agreement. It's a business based on relationships and honor. So you have to develop a reputation of trustworthiness, truthfulness, and honor. And it makes it a very old-fashioned business because there's no fixed price. The price of an emerald is only the price that the seller and the buyer agree to. So it was my joy to go to places like Switzerland or France and sell emeralds there. Although in reality, after a few trips to China, I realized that I don't want to travel so far to sell my emeralds. It was just a long trip to get to China, and even to get to Europe from California was a long trip. So my career has mostly been focused in the United States and in North America.
The behavior is more or less the same here, I think. No, George? I think that it's the same, like the trustworthy people that sell emeralds here. So it's going to be more or less the same in every part of the world, right?
Yes, it's still that way. Every few years, somebody tries to develop a new colored stone grading system or a new system to quantify color, but it's impossible because an emerald or a ruby or a sapphire, it not only has its body color, but it has the color of internal reflections. And not only that, but the color is modified by how well the emerald or stone is cut and how milky or how clear the stone is. There's so many factors that it's just a system of prices based on beauty. And beauty is so subjective that The Italians would come to Colombia and they would buy all the cristal stones with less degree of saturation, but they would take those stones back to Italy, and they would put those stones in yellow gold, and it looks beautiful. Whereas the Chinese would like larger stones with rich saturation. To them, that's the most beautiful. And those of us in the market, like myself and Oscar Baquero and Gianpaolo Magnani and other buyers, we would find little openings and niches in our market to buy effectively and sell well in our countries to the clients and customers that we have. So it's always a challenge. The business has been a challenge, and even among us dealers of emeralds today, if we see a young man or a young woman coming into the emerald business, we try to help them because it's a very difficult business, and it requires a lot of contacts, relationships, and visual appreciation of color and quality. So you need a mentor, you need help to start. But that's part of the exotic allure of emeralds. We love emeralds just because of that. And the clients who have emeralds in jewelry of their own, they're very happy with a color that's so exotic. And there's nothing more exotic than the color of a Colombian emerald.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Another factor
that's
that
true.
is actually really, really important for our customers, and it's a really important topic, is like at the extraction methods. They are always asking us about this, about the miners. So we would like that you tell us about how the mining business work.
Yes, it is true that, Leslie, a lot of people want to know how was the stone extracted? How were the miners treated? Do the children of the family of the miners, can they go to school? Can they go to college even? And this is all in the last 15 years that this has happened. And, about 20 years ago, there was, the subject came up of blood diamonds. So some of the rebel forces in Africa were using diamonds to finance the purchase of weapons to harass and to kill people of their enemies in Rwanda and other places in South Africa. And this was a horrible situation, so bad that it got the name blood diamonds. But diamonds were being used to finance warfare. And in the 1980s, the Colombians were very painfully aware of Pablo Escobar and the multinational cocaine trade of coca in the world. And so that was kind of an embarrassment for every honest Colombian. So the instant that the idea or the concept of blood diamonds came out, they immediately knew that, oh no, we don't want people to think of blood emeralds or emeralds being used to finance cocaine trade or emeralds being used to finance organized crime. So the Colombians organized, even in the 90s, they knew they had to organize their reputation very well. And the first Emerald Symposium of 1998 was a beautiful example of this. The Colombians came together and they showed the world that they're treating the miners very well. The wealth is being shared out in the emerald mining region. I remember Don Chepe Ortiz at La Pita mine. He eliminated the use of alcohol anywhere close to La Pita mine, and that lasted for about 2 years. You had to drive to Maripi to buy beer. So, everybody was, behaving a little bit better, and I would go out to the emerald mine, and instead of seeing, ugly, scary faces, that people would be going, "Hey, ¿cómo estás? How are you doing?" So because of the blood diamonds, the emerald business became very serious very quickly. And now with the new millennium, you have a situation where international companies are coming in to operate Colombian emerald mines. First with some French and Canadian companies that were not successful, And then finally in 2009, the Muzo company came in and purchased 50% of Victor Carranza's Muzem Emerald mine. And now after 2013, the Muzo company, which is a Houston-based multinational company, they have 100% of the operation of the Muzem Emerald mine. And they did a beautiful job of corporate social responsibility. Every miner has a salary now, and every miner had to open a bank account because their pay was never in cash. Their pay was always put into the bank in Muzo, and that forced the miners to also register themselves for Social Security, for health benefits. It made them very viable citizens of Colombia. And the best thing I can say about the Muzo company is that now it has been almost 10 years since they have operated the Muzo mine with 100% ownership. And look, out in the Muzo mining region, everybody wants to work for Muzo. If you want to buy land in the town of Muzo, the land prices have gone up because the miners have salaries now. They're building houses for their families. And so respect for the environment is also something that you see happening out at that region. At Cosquez, the Fura Gems company is doing the same. They're hiring a lot of women miners, which has never been done before on a grand scale, and they're paying a decent salary to their workers also. So yes, I'm happy to tell people when they ask about how are the Colombian emeralds extracted. It's a very good story.
Yeah, I think that this is really good right now because I don't know, talking about the war of emeralds back in the 1980s, as you told us, was very difficult because in Colombia there's a lot of problems between the emerald traders and the government and Victor Carranza and all of these things. So I think right now we are like growing up a lot between the extraction and the keeping all the things correct, mind correct, and that's why we are really happy to explain this to everybody that comes to the Emerald Trade Center, for example, in our case.
Yes.
And that's also interesting because, for example, I think that most of the people think that the privatization of the mines is not good. But in this case, when we are talking about the mines, about the people, is much better, I think.
It's true. The privatization of the mine, it's any step of evolution is somewhat full of change and a little bit of pain. There were now fewer huaqueros and maybe fewer comisionistas in the street in Bogota, but there still seems to be enough for everybody. So any other questions?
Yes.
We have plenty.
Now you talk a little bit about the GIA, but now we would like to know what is the role of the GIA in the emerald business. Why is so important that institute worldwide?
The Gemological Institute of America, the GIA, they have an excellent reputation as the knowledge leaders of the world for gemology and for diamond knowledge. Everybody that wants a diamond certificate goes to GIA for their diamond certificate. Because GIA invented the trading and the grading system for diamonds. I must say, though, that as for emeralds, they have good emerald knowledge, and their laboratory is one of the top 5 laboratories in the world. But most Chinese emerald customers prefer laboratories from Bangkok or Hong Kong. Actually, a lot of emerald dealers in Europe and the United States are using SSEF from Switzerland. They're using GRS, and in the United States, they're using Gubelin, which has a new office in New York City now, as well as AGL. which is another international laboratory with a very good reputation. So you hear the word GIA a lot because many gemologists got their training from GIA, but there are some very good laboratories elsewhere as well.
Okay, very interesting. We don't know nothing about that.
Yes.
Because
We always
most of
think
the
about
people,
GIA
most
and
of
that's all.
our customers comes and they ask always for the certificate from the GIA, like at the most common here in Bogota.
That's interesting. It's probably because those same customers have bought diamonds and they're familiar with the diamond certificate.
Yeah, could
I
be.
think
Maybe.
I think so. So, Ronald, now we would like to talk a little bit about your book, Emeralds, a Passionate Guide. For us, it's actually really, really important. Many customers from us, they already still bought your book, and it's still valid and it's a strong source of knowledge. So, why did you decide to write this book? How long does it take? Are you thinking in writing any other book? Can you please tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Leslie, those are three very good questions. My impulse to write the book was in 2010, so that's 10 years ago. And you can imagine back then I had 25 years, 23 years of my career as an emerald dealer. And during those 23 years, I heard every misconception and every wrong idea about emeralds that you can imagine. So I thought, if I write a book, I'll explain everything and nobody will have any more questions. And by the time I got done with the book, it had 23 chapters. So I introduced people to the world of emeralds. And the emerald world really is a world because you have not only the usual things that you would expect, like geology, gemology, mining, quality, color descriptions, and clarity descriptions. But the book also completes the world with chapters on history, romance, adventure, even poetry. There's a chapter on poetry about emeralds, and very few people know in the world that Pablo Neruda, the famous Chilean poet, he wrote 2 prose pieces about emeralds, Colombian emeralds. And one is a poem and the other is a prose paragraph, 2 paragraphs. And so this was my idea to write this book. And it took me about 2 years to write the book. I started with a blank computer screen and an old laptop. And after 2 years, I had the book done. But to me, it was an amazing experience because I wrote the book in the United States, but the page layout artist and the editor was in Bogota, and the printer was in Marceline, Missouri, in the central part of the United States. And between those 3 locations, nothing physical passed ever. It was all digital to Bogota, then the PDF from Bogota to the printer. It was amazing because it's more common nowadays, but it was quite of an experience to see that happen. Now, if you see my book and look at chapter 23, chapter 23 is when I allow myself to get a little bit philosophical. And chapter 23 talks about the medieval philosophers, St. Thomas Aquinas, talks about spirituality. It talks about some of the higher things. And actually, right now, I'm writing another book. And it's taking off from there, still with St. Thomas Aquinas, and I'm going off in that direction. Of course, emeralds are in the book, but more medieval philosophers and more spirituality. It'll be out in 1 year. You might have to get a copy.
Of course, yes.
Oh,
We
that's
really we love it.
For sure.
We love it. And those so
Okay.
that book and the one that you are writing right now, those are your only 2 books. You don't have more.
That's my only 2 books. Yes.
Okay. Well, only 2 seems like not too
I
much,
know.
but have 2 books is amazing.
Actually,
Yeah.
I've read in somewhere, I don't remember where, that the first book, the Passionate Guide, was like a 300 pages. So you have to send to your editor and you have to look for the things that you really want to show.
Yes, I had a lot of back and forth with my editor, and my editor was also a former editor at the GIA for their magazine. But I'll never forget my page layout artist. It's so very important that the book have excellent photographs because the color and the quality of emeralds is very important. So I had to do a lot of work with the page layout artist, and I'll never forget filling up my briefcase with the computer, with papers, with notations. I would take a taxi or ride my motorcycle way from the Candelaria all the way up to 124, close to the Hospital Reina Sofia, and I would work until 11 o'clock at night with the page layout artist, and then I would go all the way back home in the cold. But we finally got a very good book out, and I'm proud to say that the book has since been published in Spanish, in Chinese, and in Russian.
Chinese
Wow.
and Russian
And
too.
who took these? Who
Yes.
took these pictures? Who took these photos? You or you took these photos?
I took there's actually 250 photos in the book, and I took 240 of those photos.
Okay.
Almost all.
That's nice.
And full work.
Okay, you already said that, as you said, there are a lot of interesting things about the emerald in your book. So we would like to focus on something that is really important for the people. The color. The fifth chapter there, and an entirely chapter is dedicated on that. Would you like to tell us why the saturation of the color is so important? Why the color is, it makes a difference between the Colombian emeralds and other emeralds, or about the emeralds in general?
Yes, in colored stones, color is everything. And, in diamonds, it's the absence of color that is everything. But with colored stones, you have to appreciate the color. And this is one of the reasons why the Colombian emerald is desired more than any other stone from the emerald world. For example, Brazilian emeralds and African emeralds and Afghanistan emeralds, they all come from metamorphic zones, and that allows the stone to have some impurities of iron atoms, maybe one iron atom per million, but that's just enough to affect the color so that the color is not as pure or perfect as the emeralds from Colombia. The geology of the Colombian emerald is unique because Colombian emeralds are found in sedimentary rock due to low temperature hydrothermal solutions coming up from below and depositing the emeralds in calcite veins. And so the Colombian emerald has an absence of iron impurities, which allows the color to be perfectly expressed with no undertones of brown or gray. And it allows also for a natural fluorescence that your eye does not really see, but it does get registered in your brain as kind of a charm. It's an actual red fluorescence beneath the green color. So the perfect color of a Colombian emerald is described as a very slightly bluish green. And this is a color that is tending more towards bluish, but there's just enough yellow to give it a green, like a field of grass after a rain, or kind of a jungle green. Whereas some of the other stones, for example, African Zambian emeralds, look a little bit too much bluish, and they look a little bit steely also from the undertone of gray color. So the appreciation of the color of a Colombian stone, regardless of whether the saturation is strong or medium, it's that color that is so perfect, the very slightly bluish green. And very much a distant second place is the clarity of the stone. Emeralds will always have inclusions, and if you look close at the stone, you can see those inclusions. But as long as the inclusions inside the stone do not affect the beauty, then it's fine. you appreciate the stone for its color and the way the color is delivered to your eye.
Actually,
That's really
Geraldine
interesting.
really wants to ask you one question that for her is really important. Uh, she's wondering if you remember one special inclusion, one emerald that you said this one is really good because the inclusion was like this.
Uh-huh. Well, I wonder which emerald could that be? Well, I had one emerald that had a three-phase inclusion in it. A three-phase inclusion is a tiny gap inside the stone which has liquid, as well as a tiny piece of solid like halite, which is salt, and a gas like CO2. And the bubble of gas in this particular emerald created an outline of the shape of the gap that it was in. And the outline was exactly the shape of the 9 turns of an international racetrack in Southern California. Turn 1 and turn 2 were like a shape coming around, and it's a racetrack that I was familiar with because when I was younger I raced motorcycles there. And turns 6, 7, and 8 caused a lump elsewhere, and imagine how surprised I was looking in the microscope and seeing all 9 turns on the inside the emerald.
Would be really special, I think.
Yes, and so I took a micro photograph of that inclusion, and I sent it to my friend in Italy, who was the director of the geology museum at the University of Rome. And because the Italians are crazy about motorcycle racing, they actually published my photo in the gemology magazine in Italy.
Really?
Quite a story, yeah. Yeah,
that's really nice. We always
so
looking
cool.
always at some kind of inclusions and how it looks like. In some cases, we find like a map on the stone. For us, it's like look at it, and always we are like sharing what we look at the emeralds. And in terms of the inclusions, some people prefer inclusions of pyrite, some people prefer inclusions of calcite that makes the emerald unique in that way. So it's really good. I would like to ask, in that case, how would you define the inclusions? Because for some people, it's something that is bad or that is not really good, but for some other people, that makes an emerald really special and unique. What would you like to say about the inclusions to the people that is hearing us?
Well, Diego, what you said was very interesting. The inclusions are like a map inside the stone. You have a geological map of the environment that the emerald was in when the stone was being formed 2 million years ago. And the inclusions are just proof of the natural existence of the emerald. So as long as the inclusions don't distract your eye from the beauty of the stone, we tolerate inclusions. In the same way that when you love your wife, but you tolerate certain aspects of her personality because you love her. That's the way it is with emeralds.
Okay.
Now,
That makes her
go
special.
back because actually I am his girlfriend, so that's why he's like, okay.
You have really nice inclusions.
Yeah.
Yeah, Geraldine too.
Leslie, I have to tell you that I'm down to 7% battery on my laptop. So maybe 3 or 5 more minutes. Would that be okay?
Yes,
Yes,
don't worry.
of course.
Okay.
So, well, we just would like that you tell us in your book you write about like a really interesting experience that you had with a mister that his last name is Romero. So we would like that you tell us something about this history for the people who is watching us.
Oh, yes, Mr. Romero, chapter 6 about clarity. And
Yeah.
his daughter still works as a comisionista in the Emerald Works in downtown Bogota. But Mr. Romero he was a cutter, and he got a rough trapiche emerald from the mine. And this was back in 1985 when it was easy to go out on 7th Street and buy emeralds. He bought a very large trapiche. I think it weighed almost 100 carats. And the thing is, he was a cutter, so he put many little triangular facets all over this emerald until it was nice. It was a trapiche. You could still appreciate all the qualities of the trapiche, which is a hexagonal shape inside the stone, and you could appreciate its color as well. And he was with some of the men that went to Hong Kong back in that time. And Mr. Romero was asked by a buyer in Hong Kong, how much is this emerald? And he said, well, $500, because he bought the stone for $300. He wanted to make a little profit, but he forgot that when you buy a piece of rough, you buy the rough for the total price of the stone. So $300 or $500. But the moment you facet the stone with facets, it's no longer a rough stone. It's a faceted stone, and your price that you ask is the price per carat. So the buyer of this emerald in Hong Kong, he said, "Oh, $500, that's a lot of money. You won't take anything less." And Mr. Romero said, "No, it's worth 500, it's worth it." And so the man went into the back room, and he came out with a check for $50,000 because the stone weighed 100 carats.
Yeah.
And of course, Mr. Romero, being a good Colombian, he kept his face, controlled his face, His brain was exploding, but he controlled his face, and he left with that money, and that started him on a very good career in emeralds. He lasted many years.
Okay, that's nice. Really good memories. Okay, and for many people, it's difficult to approach the emeralds when they don't know anything about the emeralds and about buying the market. Which advice would you give them to buy an emerald?
Well, to buy an emerald, you have to find someone you trust. You have to judge the people who are selling you the emerald just as much as you judge the stone itself. So I would suggest find someone like Geraldine or Diego or Leslie and talk to them. And then buy my book. With my book, you can judge the emerald much better, and then you can easily arrive at a fair price and be very satisfied with the stone. But it's all based on beauty and personal relationships. So that's the best way to start, is find some good people.
Then they are going to explain you everything, and that's the most important thing, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Ronald, hello, I'm back. I don't know what happens with the connection. I really appreciate all of your time here with us, sharing your experience, and all of your memories. Was a really amazing time. I hope could be more, but maybe someday here back in Bogota, well, we can sit and talk more about this magical word. I want to close with a question that as the first one, that you talk about who is Ronald. Oh, look at
Somebody just walked.
I am going to adopt one kitty.
Estamos en cuarentín con la familia. Aquí está la familia.
And,
yes, your question?
Yeah. Well, now I want to know how would you like to be remembered? You are giving us a big legacy with your books, with all your knowledge. So, but how you want to be?
I think it's a thing that I realize now that my book will remain as a reference book for Emeralds for a long time, and I just hope that I'm remembered as the guy that not only went to Colombia, but he embraced the culture, bought a house in Colombia. I don't know why I never married a Colombian girl, but I didn't. I have Linda with here, but my name will always be associated with the United States and with Colombia.
Okay. Okay, well, Ronald, for me, thank you so much for being here, for your time and all of your stories. I don't know if Diego and Leslie want to say something.
Yes,
Yes,
I would
I
like
would
to
like
say
to
that
thank you again.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And
Thank you for the
thank you for your
opportunity
time.
to speak, and
Thank you for
I
your
wish you all
knowledge.
the best. Yes.
I hope that one day you can come and we can drink a coffee and talk about everything. You can tell us all your stories. We would like to extend our interview with you. That would be really nice
Okay.
for us because you are
Thank
like
you.
a guru for us.
Yeah, you
of
owe me
the
a
Emeralds.
coffee now. Okay, I'll remember that.
Okay,
And
And we are
perfect.
now we are expecting for your new book. We are really
Yeah.
excited for that. So we are
you
like,
you
"Ooh."
have here 4 customers: Geraldine, Leslie, Diego, and George.
Okay.
Customers for your new book. Okay.
Okay. Very
Thank
good.
you very much,
Okay.
Ronald.
Thank you all.
Thank
and
you
very much.
Bye.
have a good day.
Have a good
Take
time.
care. Don't touch
Bye.
your face.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.